What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the show. My name is Ted Kulakevich and this is Creative Studio. Before you are some illustrations that you might have seen on Dribbble, and today's goal is to show you how I create these illustrations in Figma. Most of my ideas start in Procreate, and then after I sketch them, I drop them into Figma and start working off that. So let's watch a quick time lapse of what we'll be illustrating today. So the idea I had for this is to have some kind of futuristic encoder. We have information and data going in, and then it gets converted in this cube, and then it comes out the other side. So for the general style, I'm thinking something modern, techie, some bright colors, maybe some light teals, maybe some reds and things like that. So now that we got our sketch dropped into Figma, what I'm going to do is make it 50% opacity, and then I'm going to lock the layer. So we're going to start building on top of this layer here. And before we start building things, I just want to show you that plugin that I was talking about that I use primarily. So we're going to right click and go to our plugins, and we're going to find the Isometric plugin. So it's a super convenient little window that's floating around and it doesn't disappear. And the way it works is you create an object for this square, for example, and then we click and it instantly places it on perspective, which is super effective. We can have these kind of planes, or if we want, we can rotate the object and place it upward. So just like that, in several seconds, I can create a cube. So now that we understand how the isometric plugin works, it's pretty simple from here. All we're going to do is use our drawing as a reference and just build our illustration over top. So what I like to do is make these elements red and different shades, maybe a bit lighter, and just build the shapes as you see them. And what's nice is I can just reuse these elements. We just need to make sure that these things are touching and that things are pixel perfect. The one thing with this plugin is if you do flatten an object, like I subtracted this piece, it will become a flat object and will no longer be able to resize like these other pieces. So we built this part. Now let's just duplicate this over, and I'm going to build that little inner piece that it goes into. So I'm just going to copy paste and scale down, and I just got to make sure that these things align. So what I think I'll do is lower this angle. Okay. The reason why I love using this plugin, it's super quick, like you can see right here. So I'm trying to build these little cubes that are going to be going inside. Just group that and duplicate it several times here. And I'm thinking I'm going to add some kind of effect coming off of the cube, some kind of like radiant light type thing. Space these out a bit more, and then over here we're just going to place circles coming out. Don't be afraid to deviate from your sketch. It's just a guideline wireframe type of thing. Alrighty, so this last piece we're going to build now. So I'm going to build a cube. I'm going to flatten this and then rotate it upward. And then I have to build this back piece so it looks like 3D and not just flat. And the way I do this is draw another square, put it at an angle, make it red like a grid, and then I'm gonna just touch the corner of that. So when I move my other piece, I make sure that I'm still in line with that grid. There you go. Now we're just going to build these panel pieces. I'm gonna build this thing inside like a little chip. And then I'm gonna have to draw some lines on the grid coming out of it. So this part's gonna be a little tedious just doing all of the lines, so I'm just gonna fast forward, time lapse through that. So what I'm doing here is creating a grid for my connection lines to follow. Since there is no snap to pixel, I just have to create these to have all the lines going in the same direction on the same plane. And it's the tedious part, but we're basically just building out all the different kind of connectors that you would see on a computer chip. Now that we have all our lines in place, what I'm going to do is select all of the lines, and I'm going to click Control E or Command E to flatten them all into one path, and then I'm going to use a shortcut and outlet them into a fill shape. Next, what I'm going to do is copy and paste this back piece and use intersect selection, which will cut off all the stuff that's sticking out. And I'm going to copy this, paste it on top, and subtract it from here as well. And that's our kind of data cube there. Let's just put this in place. There are a few more that are coming from it, but we'll get to those a bit later. Just put this down. Or what we can do to keep it consistent is take one of these pieces and place it on top. So I'm just going to center it here, make sure it's centered. And what we can actually do is extend a few of these from the cube going downward. So I'll just do that now. And just have that connection happening between the cube and this little floating chip. So just a few of these should do, and what I need to do is basically make it look like they're going behind. So I'm going to create this shape, subtract it, do the same thing, flatten all of these into one, and subtract this, and that is basically the construction part. The next step that we're going to move into is we can remove this or put this on the side somewhere just for reference, but we've basically built all the main elements of our illustration, and now our goal is to add all the colors and make it look beautiful for Dribbble. So now that we have all of our elements built out, our next goal is to basically apply color and style and make it look pretty. And the color palette I'm going to use today for this illustration comes from flatUIcolors.com. I recommend you check them out. They have some good color combinations that I reference and use for inspiration. And this is the chosen palette that I'm going to go with. So I'm actually going to remove this image since I don't need it anymore. And I'm going to start by making the background dark. I'm going to have this like on a dark background, so it's not as dark as I wanted it. I'm going to make it a little darker here. Something like that. And what I'm going to do is make the cube this gray color, this dark color. And we have to remember where our light is coming from. So in this case we have a sun up here. Let's just pretend it's up here and it's shining down this way. So everything on top, all these top elements, this part here, the top cube, this, they're all going to be lighter than the other edges, just to keep that consistent. So what I'm going to do is lighten up this panel here. Make this one darker since it's not the farthest away from the light. And then for this one, let's make it even darker here. So basically almost getting to black. I think I'm going to lighten this up a bit or else it's hard to see. Oh, it's 10% opacity, that's why. Yeah, so let's play with that here. So make it dark. Same thing with this one. I'm gonna make the box basically the same panels. So just copying and pasting the colors. So this one we gotta make a little bit lighter. Let's fix this piece right here. There you go. So it's not as light as the top, it's not as dark as the farthest point. So there's our shape. And I think for the chip, I'm going to keep it consistent and go with that as well. I do have to add like a little cut here to separate the planes. So the way I'm going to do this is build this element, align it like so, copy paste, intersect again. I'm going to hide it behind the front panel. So now we have that 3D element, and look, there you go. So for the lines and the connection, I'm going to have this color, and we'll see how that works with the rest of the illustration here. Or maybe I can play around with a few. So I like this one, it's nice, it's tech, gives me that tech vibe. Just play with a few of these. I think I have to brighten these up a bit, make them more colorful. Alright, so let's color the lines. It's looking pretty hot. And we gotta figure out what to do with this part here, how to make that stand out. Let's just get back to that after we figured out the other colors. So what I want to do is have the squares come in, and when they come out, they're going to be looking different color as well as shape. Alright, so the cubes, we'll keep the cubes. I think when they come out, they should be this color because it'll keep that consistent like it went through. So let's do that. And we're not really focused on doing the like detail styles right now. We're just doing like the overall colors and seeing which colors will work well together. So let's see how a darker blue or a purple will look here. I'm just gonna copy this square so I have to rebuild it several times. And I'm envisioning some kind of rays, some kind of like glare effect, so that those will make this illustration come to life. So we'll have it go in, just different sizes, like so. And maybe we can add a gradient here just to emphasize that it's disappearing. So let's do that. I'm gonna copy and paste that over real quick. Do the same thing here. Okay. I think we need to add a slight gradient to this as well. So I'm just gonna draw this shape, rotate it, and mask it into here. I'm gonna add another gradient here. Get darker as it goes in there. There you go, perfect. Let's copy this over. Oh, let's copy this over. Create the same effect here. So now with all these shadows and gradients, it's starting to come to life a bit. We just need to add another one down here. Okay, so we got that figured out. The next thing I want to do is, like I said, add some glare, some kind of light around these so they don't look so flat. And one way to do that is by copying this, scaling it up, and creating this semi-transparent layer. And we can help the look by also creating like a gradient on these. So here's our cube. Just gonna recopy this over so I have to rebuild it several times. And we can just rotate it, change it up a bit. Same thing with these, we want to create some kind of depth to them. So likewise, I'm going to add some opacity changes for that. You can have them glow like this. I think maybe also will help adding like a little highlight to the circle there. So let's add an effect on this, a layer blur. You can put 3. Just give it more shine. Maybe less vibrant here. Okay, so we're making some progress, starting to look a lot better. Now we just need to work through some of these areas, so that looks a lot better right away. But I think what will help is adding a gradient shadow here. Also maybe we add a layer blur on this, but just less. Very light, maybe more of a blur. Yeah, that looks good. Alrighty, this thing's coming together. Now we gotta figure out what to do with this element here. I moved it. Forgot to fix this little detail. So one more thing that I want to do just to finish off some of these edges is add like a highlight outline. So I'm going to copy paste this, create a white stroke, and I'm going to erase these since I don't need them. And then I'm going to add a gradient. and layer blur this. And that's going to give us the effect of like highlights and make the corner stand out a bit. So it even makes them look a bit rounded. I'm going to finesse this illustration a bit more and then post it to Dribbble. But thank you for watching. This is how I create isometric illustrations behind the scenes. Thank you for joining the studio. If you enjoyed this content, please think about dropping a like, please subscribe, and there's more coming soon. I want to take this opportunity to tell you a little bit about Creative Studio. So I created a Facebook page which you can join, which is public, and the idea is to create better design community with better resources. So make sure to check that out and follow that. I'll be dropping freebies there and updates as I go along with creating new content. Thank you so much.